Saxon Algebra 1, Lesson 86. I'm sorry, no more stem and leaf, no more pictures to draw for you. We'll come back to that in Algebra. But something grittier. We're going to do division with polynomials. This is something unlike anything we've done before, and we're not really going to build on it, but it's definitely important. And it's a little bit of a mind bender. Remember when you first learned long division and you were like, dear God, this is way too hard, I can't even. You might feel like this at first with division of polynomials, but everything you ever learned about long division is going to come into play here. Okay, that's our problem. We're going to talk about that in a minute. When we divide, we follow a four-step process. By the way, that can be known as an algorithm. And it goes like this. The first thing you do is estimate. And I'll review all of these as we actually do the work. You estimate. Then you actually multiply. Then you subtract. And then you bring down. I hope this is somewhat familiar to you. Those are the four steps that you learned back when you learned to do long division in the day. We're going to use the very same steps in a similar format with just a few little extra bells and whistles. So just strap in to your long division armchair and let's do this. Here's the way our problem looks. Divide this by this. The first one goes inside the box, the division box. Oh, this is cubed. I'm sorry, I have these exponents wrong. That's cubed, that's squared, and that's just plain x. Okay, so cubed, squared, and plain x. And we're dividing all of this by x, okay? Sometimes I used to get confused about which number goes where. Divide blank by blank. The first one goes in the box, this one goes outside. Okay, now we're at the estimating stage. Here's the way we estimate. What do we have to multiply by x in order to get 3x cubed? Okay, the answer to that is 3x squared. Because when we multiply, those x's will combine to make the third one. So that's how we estimate. We say, what do we multiply by this to get that? That's our estimate. Now we actually multiply. This times this is 3x cubed, just like we hoped, right? Now we will subtract. Now I want you to practice always putting parentheses around your outside number, the divisor. This is called the dividend. This is called the divisor. Those are just confusing words to me. But in the next so important. We always put this in parentheses as we go to subtract. Okay, we subtract that from that. Well, guess what? It's gone. And so we bring down, step 4, 7x squared. Okay, that wasn't so horrible, right? Now we go back to the top. We estimate. What do we have to multiply by this to get that? 7x. Now we actually multiply and we get 7x squared. It worked out perfectly. Put it in parentheses, trust me, subtract, it all cancels. Bring down. This is a minus x. All right, we ask ourselves again, what do we have to multiply by x to get negative x? Okay, that's just a negative 1. Negative 1 times x is minus x. Now here you can start to see why this parenthesis thing is going to become important. We're subtracting a minus x. That turns into adding an x, doesn't it? And just so that I show that that's the combined, right? I took a minus and I turned it into a plus. I'm circling it to say that's my new answer because I don't want to get confused about whether I changed my answer or not. So the two minuses went together. They made a plus. Now I have minus x and it comes out to 0. So this is my quotient or my answer, either way. All right, so if you took this and you multiplied it by x, you would get our original value. Okay, that wasn't too horrible, but guess what? I'm going to make it harder. I know, you're welcome. Example 86.2. This time, we've got this big thing. I'm going to write it on the inside of the division box. 12x to the 12th minus 8x to the 8th plus 4x to the 6th. We're supposed to divide this. You know, I'm not going to do it John's way. I think he's just being super confusing. Okay, divide this by this. Let's do it the way I just showed you. There's an easier way, but I want to use the same process. What do we have to multiply by this to get this? Well, 4 times 3 equals 12. And this is x to the 4th. I know I would be adding the exponents, so this has to be an 8, right? So that 4 plus 8 equals 12. That's my estimate. Now I multiply. 12x, I add these, 12. Yay, it worked. I subtract. It's gone. I bring down. Minus 8x to the 8th. Okay. What do we have to multiply by this? Well, we need a minus, and we're going to need a 2, and we're going to need 4 more x's. I'm encroaching, aren't I? I'm going to have to squeeze. It's going to get ugly, but that's okay. Minus, I get 8, and I get x to the 8. I put my parentheses around and I subtract. The two negatives go together to make a positive. I circle it to show that's the sign after I fixed it. Those two cancel, and I bring down a plus 4x to the 6th. What do I have to multiply this by to get that? Just x squared. X squared times this, the 4 stays the same. I add the exponents. I subtract, and guess what? It comes out to 0. So my final answer, I'll rewrite it. 3x to the 8th minus 2x to the 4th plus x squared. And that's the final answer. By the way, I think I do these problems slightly differently than John does in the book. Pretty sure I do. So do yourself a favor and just do it my way. Okay? So we use the very same process for those, even though this was a single x and this was a much trickier divisor, even wackier now. Are you ready? This is where it gets hard. And we have a couple examples of this. John tells us to divide. I'm going to write it out so you can see it all. I'm leaving myself a little space because we're going to have to fix this. Okay, divide blah by blah. This number is what goes in the box, and this number goes outside the box. Okay, we've got all kinds of drama going on here. The first problem I see is, those are out of order. I don't like it. So I'm going to rewrite these in the box properly. 3x cubed belongs first, minus 2x squared, and then these are fine. Plus 5x plus 50. Okay, that goes in the box. Now, look what we're dividing by. It's a binomial. What? A binomial? We haven't done that before. That's a new wrinkle. So, I'm going to fix this because I don't like the order of this either. I want it to be x minus 3. That looks better to me. So, x minus 3 goes out here. It's a little wonky. It's okay. Now, we're still going to use our same steps. I'll show them to you again. Estimate, multiply, subtract, bring down. We're doing it exactly the same. So we estimate. Now, there are two parts to this. So how do we estimate? We ignore the minus 3 and we just look at the x. We get to simplify it. So we ask ourselves, what do we multiply by x? 3x cubed. We don't pay any attention to this, just this. And that we're going to need to multiply by 3x squared. Okay, so estimating, we just pay attention to the x. Now for step 2, when we multiply, now we have to take care of both parts. But it's not so bad. First we multiply this by the x, and we get 3x cubed. Okay, that's just what we wanted. And then we multiply this by the second part, and we get whatever it is. We don't care. But it's going to be minus 9x squared, right? 1 minus sign, 3 times 3 is 9, x squared. Now, here's where the parentheses become really important. Put it around both parts. Put the minus sign there. We're going to subtract, right? Step 3. Now, this minus sign changes this into a minus. That's fine. This usually is set up perfectly. We don't really have to worry too much about the sign there. This is where the sign gets tricky, is in the second part. This minus and this minus change into a plus. I circle it to show that's the sign after the change. This cancels. This becomes 7x squared minus 2 plus 9. Notice that the x factors, ooh, did I just say that? The x terms will always match up. Later in Algebra 2, we'll deal with drama there, but not today. But not this day. I'm sorry, it's running in my head. Okay, so we've done the first one. Now we repeat the process. We go back and we estimate. Again, for estimating, we just use the front one. What do we multiply times x to get 7x squared? Positive 7x, right? We multiply this. We get the 7x squared. Good, that's going to cancel out when we subtract. But now we have to do it times the second one and just write it underneath and pray it all works out. 7x times minus 3 would be minus 21x, right? This goes in parentheses. We subtract it all. This becomes minus, it cancels. This turns into a plus. And I circle it so I don't get confused and forget whether or not I changed the sign. All right, that cancels. I already said that. This becomes 26x. Okay, we're just straddling along here, slowly filling it in. We're doing fine. Now we ask ourselves, what do we multiply times x to get 5x? The 5, the 26. What do we multiply times x to get the 26x? Ay, ay, ay. 26. 26 times x is 26x. 26 times 3. That's a good question. Let's do it over here. 6 times 3 is 18. 6, 7. Okay, so it's 78. So it will be minus 78, right? Because we multiplied 26 times minus 3. Okay, and here's the 50 that's going to come down. Sometimes I draw the arrows to kind of connect them. We get these big gaps in our work. So we're going to be adding those. But wait, first we have to make sure our signs are right. This turns into a plus. This is a minus. That goes away. 50 plus 78 is now, I'm going to scribble that out because it's in my way, 128. All right, let's try it one more time. 128, that's not going to happen because there's no x in this term, so it's not going to happen. So now we can just write our answer the way we write answers as remainders, 128 over the divisor, which is x minus 3. So this whole big gnarly shooting match is our answer, 3x squared plus 7x plus 26 plus 128 over x minus 3. Yay, we got it right. That is a lot of steps. That is a lot of remembering. Make sure that you copy this down. This is our division algorithm. Make sure you copy that because those are the steps you're going to follow. And then remember that this subtraction thing is tricky. You have to put the parentheses around what you're subtracting, put the minus sign on the outside, and then carry that minus sign across and change it on the second term. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, we have we have two more, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go for it. Example 86.4. Okay, I look in the book. I know it's going to be like this. I know the first number is going to go in here, divide, and as I look at it, I realize it's out of order, so I'm going to fix it as I write it down so that the The exponents are in descending order. Okay, so when I fix it, it's 2x cubed minus x squared minus x plus 4. And then the divisor is also out of order, and I'm going to fix that, x minus 2. Okay, so we clean these up and put them in the right order. Now we're ready to do our thing. Are you ready? For estimating, we just look at the x. What do we multiply by x to get 2x cubed? 2x squared. When we multiply, we do both. This one is 2x cubed. This one is minus 4x squared. Notice how the variables match. Parentheses, minus, this one turns out fine, this changes into a plus. We add, we get, what, 3x squared. Okay, and then we'll bring down this. All right. What do we have to multiply by x to get 3x squared? 3x. 3x times x is 3x squared. And then this is, which that has to match, we're happy with that. This is just whatever random thing we get. Minus 6x. Okay? Parentheses, minus sign, those cancel, that turns plus. And we get 5x, and then we'll bring down the plus 4. See how that works out. Okay, back to the beginning. What do we multiply by x to get 5x? 5. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times minus 2 is minus 10. All of this is subtracting. This turns into a plus. That goes away, and we get, that was a 10. This is a 14. X multiplied by nothing, excuse me, will give us a plain 14. So this is our remainder, and we write it up here like this. 14 is our remainder over the divisor x minus 2. This whole gnarly beast is our answer. 2x squared plus 3x plus 5 plus 14 over x minus 2. Yay, we got it right. Okay? Is it just one more? These are, no, there's 2 more. You guys, these are hard. If you're crying, I understand. Sorry, I'm in low power mode now, so I better hurry. 86.5. Again, the first number, which is the dividend, is messed up. So I'm going to clean it up, put everything in order. 3x to the third. And then the next term, there's no x squared term. I'm going to leave a little gap there. And then I'm going to go minus 2x plus 5. There's no x squared term, and that makes me feel a little uncomfortable. But don't worry, I know how to fix this, but for right now, it's a little bit weird. But just leave a little gap there. And then what we're dividing by, again, John gives it to me out of order. I have to fix it, x minus 3. So here we go. Estimate using only the x. This would be 3x squared. We multiply 3x cubed, and then this one we actually multiply, minus 9x squared. Okay, this is where the x squared term should be. So we subtract. This is fine. This changes to plus. Here's the trick, you guys. We don't have an x squared term. So what we do is we create one using 0 as the numeric coefficient. Now, we haven't changed the value of this because we set it to 0, but now we have something to combine with that. So now we can make this 9x squared. See how we did that? You fill it in with a 0, and then you put whatever variable you want that's missing. Okay, now we do it again. X times what equals 9x squared? 9x. We multiply. We multiply both parts. Okay. We subtract all of this. That's changing this into a plus. This cancels, and notice that we do have an x term, so we're good. Minus 2 plus 24, that would be 22x. Okay. And we ask ourselves, what copy this right. 9 times 3 is 27. I did the multiplication wrong there. 9 times 3 is negative 27. We changed it into a positive. When we combine these, we get 25x. Okay. Much better. And now what do we multiply by x to get 25x? 25. Multiply it by both terms. Subtract. Bring this down. I could have brought that down earlier. My bad. This cancels, and this becomes negative 70. No, because this turns into a plus. So it's plus 80. Makes sense? I forgot to change that sign. You see how quickly this can go awry. So now we have 80. X times nothing gives me 80, so I create my remainder. And this is the correct answer. Despite my multiple attempts to get it wrong, I ended up getting it right. See, I need you guys. 9 times 3, what am I thinking? All right, so the moral of this story is that when we have gaps, we can fill them in with terms with the right alpha characters, and then we just put a 0 in front of it. And let's do one more. And this one is, again, out of order, x cubed, and then it has nothing more than a minus 4. So I'm leaving some space there. So I'm going to have to fill in some terms. This is x minus 3. Okay, so let's do our estimating. What do we multiply times x to get x cubed? X squared. Now we actually multiply to both parts. We get ready to subtract. This is going to be fine, but here we're going to have to add a term, aren't we? Okay, now we can, this is going to change this to a plus, so this will be 3x squared. X to get 3x squared would be 3x. And then this will be minus 3x squared, minus 9x. Subtract. Okay, we don't have anything, so this time we have to add a second term. This is going to change this to a plus. This cancels. 0 plus 9x is 9x. What do we multiply by x to get 9x? Positive 9. We multiply, it works. We do this one. Ha! I'm ready for you this time. This is minus 27. We subtract. This cancels. This turns to a positive. You guys. 9 times 3 is negative 27, which I changed to a plus. I'm so busy looking at the other numbers, I'm just making silly mistakes. Minus 4 plus 27 gives us 23. And that's our final answer. 23 over x minus 3. So sometimes we fill in two gaps. When you realize you have gaps and missing terms, just leave yourself space so you can add them in as you need to. You don't have to add them in ahead of time because some students find that really confusing. So I say just leave it and just add them in as you need it. That's lesson 86. That's a toughie. Send me problem numbers if you need help figuring them out. Use your solutions manual not to make it too easy for you, but to learn from each of the problems that you're doing. Be patient with yourself. 86 is a toughie. All right, good job. You survived. See you soon.